Most people think the system they live in just evolved naturally. The way corporations work, the way money flows, the way education, philanthropy, and regulation are structured. But much of it was designed, deliberately, over a century ago. Not by governments, not by voters, but by one man who understood power better than anyone else in American history. John D. Rockefeller didn't just dominate oil, he built a system, one so efficient, so embedded, that we still live inside it today. This isn't a conspiracy, it's a documented history. And once you see how the system was built, you'll understand why escaping it was never really an option. In 1870, John D. Rockefeller was 31 years old. He controlled 4% of America's oil refining capacity. By 1880, he controlled 90%. By 1904, he controlled 91% of oil production and 85% of final sales. This wasn't luck. This was a system. And that system became the blueprint every monopoly has followed since. Vertical integration. Control every step. Most oil refineries in the 1870s just refined oil. They bought crude from drillers, refined it, sold kerosene to distributors. They controlled one step. Rockefeller controlled all of them. He bought the barrel-making factories, so he didn't pay others for barrels. He made them for 40% less. He bought the railroads and tank cars, so he didn't pay shipping fees. He owned the transportation. He bought the pipelines, the warehouses, the distribution networks. Every step that used to be a separate business generating profit for someone else, Rockefeller brought in-house. This gave him massive cost advantages. While competitors paid 25 cents per barrel for containers, Rockefeller made his for 15 cents. While competitors paid railroads to ship oil, Rockefeller owned the railroads. And he negotiated secret rebates where railroads paid him to ship and charged his competitors more. He could sell kerosene cheaper than anyone and still make profit. And he used that advantage to destroy competition. Horizontal consolidation. Eliminate all competitors. In 1872, Rockefeller launched what historians call the Cleveland Massacre. He approached every refinery owner in Cleveland. Sell to me. I'll pay fair market value. Or I'll destroy you. If they refused, he dropped prices below cost. His competitors lost money on every sale. They had two choices: sell to Rockefeller or go bankrupt. Most sold. A few fought. All lost. Within 3 months, Rockefeller controlled 25 of Cleveland's 26 refineries. He went from 4% to 25% of American refining in 90 days. Then he did the same thing in New York, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Offer to buy. If they refuse, launch a price war. Buy the ruins. By 1879, Standard Oil controlled 90% of American refining. The trust, the legal structure that changed everything. In 1882, Rockefeller's lawyers invented something new, the Standard Oil Trust. Standard Oil of Ohio couldn't legally own companies in other states, but a trust could. Rockefeller created a trust that held stock in all Standard Oil companies nationwide. The trust controlled the companies. Rockefeller controlled the trust. This was the first major corporate trust in American history, and it became the model for every monopoly that followed. The Sugar Trust, Tobacco Trust, Steel Trust. Today, we call them holding companies, parent companies that own subsidiaries. Alphabet owns Google, Meta owns Facebook and Instagram, Amazon owns Whole Foods, and AWS. They're all descendants of Rockefeller's trust structure. It allows one entity to control multiple markets while technically complying with laws. Regulatory capture. Control the referees. Rockefeller didn't just compete in markets, he shaped the rules. He lobbied for railroad regulations that favored Standard Oil. He worked with politicians to set quality standards for kerosene that his refineries could meet, but competitors couldn't. He funded academic research that supported his business model. This is regulatory capture, when the industry being regulated controls the regulators. And it's everywhere today. Pharmaceutical companies fund the FDA through user fees. Big tech writes the regulations they're supposedly regulated by. Banks helped write Dodd-Frank, the law meant to control them after 2008. Rockefeller pioneered this 150 years ago. 1911. Standard Oil is broken up. By 1911, the public hated monopolies. Journalists like Ida Tarbell exposed Rockefeller's tactics. The Supreme Court ruled Standard Oil was an illegal monopoly, ordered it broken into 34 separate companies. This should have destroyed Rockefeller's empire. Instead, it made him richer. The 34 pieces. Standard Oil of New Jersey became Exxon. Standard Oil of New York became Mobil. Standard Oil of California became Chevron. Standard Oil of Indiana became Amoco. Standard Oil of Ohio became Sohio. Later bought by BP. Rockefeller owned shares in all 34 companies. Before the breakup, Standard Oil stock was worth about $600 per share. After the breakup, the combined value of all 34 companies was over $2,000 per share. Rockefeller's wealth tripled. Why? Because breaking one monopoly into 34 regional monopolies didn't actually create competition. Each company dominated its region, and over the next century they merged back together. Exxon and Mobil merged in 1999. Chevron absorbed others. BP bought Amoco and Sohio. The Standard Oil monopoly that was broken up in 1911 has essentially reconsolidated into Exxon Mobil, Chevron, and BP. The system broke itself up to avoid regulation, then quietly rebuilt over 100 years. And Rockefeller's descendants are still wealthy from it. The Standard Oil breakup didn't kill the Rockefeller system, it spread it, because the methods worked, and every industry copied them. Amazon. Vertical integration. Amazon started as an online bookstore. Now it controls the entire supply chain, owns the warehouses, the logistics network, the delivery trucks, the payment processing, the cloud infrastructure that hosts competitors' websites. Amazon Web Services generates $90 billion annually, more than Amazon's retail profit. Rockefeller controlled refineries, railroads, and distribution. Amazon controls retail, logistics, and cloud computing. Same playbook, different century. Google. The trust structure Alphabet is a holding company that owns Google, YouTube, Waymo, DeepMind, Verily, and dozens of other subsidiaries. It's the Standard Oil Trust, one parent company controlling multiple operating companies. This structure shields the parent from liability, allows tax optimization, makes regulatory breakup complicated because each subsidiary is technically separate. Rockefeller invented this in 1882. Google perfected it in 2015. Big Pharma, regulatory capture. Rockefeller didn't just dominate oil, he reshaped American medicine. In 1913, he created the Rockefeller Foundation. Initial gift, $250 million. The foundation funded medical schools, Johns Hopkins, University of Chicago, Rockefeller University. It established the model for medical education that emphasized pharmaceutical interventions over holistic care. This isn't conspiracy. This is documented history. The goal was standardization and efficiency, but it also centralized power in ways that still shape healthcare today. The Rockefeller Foundation shaped American medicine to favor the pharmaceutical model. And pharmaceutical companies, many descended from Standard Oil's chemical divisions, profited enormously. Today, Big Pharma uses the same regulatory capture Rockefeller pioneered. They fund the FDA through user fees. They lobby for patent extensions. They write the regulations they're supposedly regulated by. Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, they learned from Rockefeller, control the regulators, and You control the market. Banking, holding company structures. J.P. Morgan Chase is a holding company that owns Chase Bank, J.P. Morgan Investment Bank, and numerous subsidiaries. Bank of America, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, all holding companies. When Dodd-Frank tried to regulate banks after 2008, the holding company structure made it nearly impossible. Which entity do you regulate, the parent or the subsidiaries? Rockefeller solved this problem in 1882. Banks copied the solution 100 years later. The Rockefeller Foundation, philanthropy as power. In 1913, Rockefeller created the Rockefeller Foundation with $250 million. On the surface, charity. Rockefeller giving back. But look deeper. The foundation allowed Rockefeller to avoid estate taxes. It gave him control over which universities received funding, which meant control over what was taught and researched. It bought him legitimacy. The most hated man in America became a beloved philanthropist. Today, every billionaire uses the same playbook. Bill Gates, $75 billion foundation, shapes WHO policy, influences governments. Mark Zuckerberg, Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. Warren Buffett, pledged wealth to Gates Foundation. These aren't just charity, they're tax avoidance, legacy building, and policy influence. Rockefeller invented the model. Modern billionaires perfected it. Here's what makes the Rockefeller system inescapable. It's not one company, it's the method, and the method is embedded in corporate law, tax code, and regulatory structures. You buy gasoline. Your choices: ExxonMobil, Chevron, BP, Shell. All of them are descendants of Standard Oil or use its methods. You're not choosing between competitors. You're selecting branches of the same tree. You shop online. Amazon dominates through vertical integration. Walmart and Target must match its scale or die. Same system, different companies. You search the internet. Google has 92% market share, higher than Standard Oil's peak of 91%. But Google isn't called a monopoly because it's free. You pay with data instead of money. Rockefeller would have loved this innovation. A monopoly so complete, users don't realize they're paying. You need healthcare. You see doctors trained in a system shaped by Rockefeller Foundation grants. You take pharmaceuticals developed by companies using Rockefeller's corporate structures. You pay insurance companies using Rockefeller's holding company model. Every step, extraction. The extraction system average American spending per year. Gasoline, $2,500 Amazon and online retail, $3,000 healthcare beyond insurance, $5,000 tech services, $2,000. In broad terms, that can add up to over $12,000 per year flowing through systems built on Rockefeller's model. Over a lifetime, $500,000 of wealth transfer, not to innovative startups, to monopolistic corporations using 150-year-old tactics to eliminate competition and extract maximum profit. And opting out entirely is nearly impossible because the system is embedded into daily life. You need transportation, requires gasoline. You need goods. Amazon controls pricing. You need information. Google has 92% of search. You need healthcare. The system is shaped by Rockefeller's foundations. Every path leads back to consolidated corporate control. Why it's designed. This way, Rockefeller said, competition is a sin. Most people hear that as greed, but Rockefeller meant it theologically. Competition is wasteful. It duplicates effort, destroys capital. Consolidation is righteous. It creates efficiency, serves consumers through lower prices. Monopoly isn't theft. It's the natural end state of efficient markets. This was Rockefeller's worldview, and he built a system to enforce it. 150 years later, we live in that system. Amazon eliminates retail competition. Google eliminates search competition. Meta eliminates social media competition. The consolidation Rockefeller started has reached its logical conclusion: 3 to 5 dominant players in every industry, all using his playbook. John D. Rockefeller controlled 4% of American oil in 1870. By 1880, he controlled 90%. He didn't just dominate an industry, he invented the methods that modern corporations still use: vertical integration, corporate trusts, regulatory capture, tax-exempt foundations. When Standard Oil was broken up in 1911, his wealth tripled. The monopoly wasn't destroyed, it evolved. Today, those same structures shape energy, technology, finance, healthcare, and retail. Not because corporations are evil, but because the system Rockefeller built was designed for consolidation. Understanding that system doesn't mean rejecting modern life. It means finally seeing how it works. If this helped you understand the forces shaping your economy, subscribe. Because the Rockefeller system is only one piece. The petrodollar, corporate power, currency dominance, they're all connected. And understanding the system is the first step to navigating it intelligently.